All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, please.
Make a motion.
Support.
So we have a motion and support. Any discussion?
Just a couple of things. Hold on while I get some notes together. I just have a couple of questions. Sorry, as I get organized here. So I'm looking at the action items, on policy, letter B, the recommendation to approve, and I know that we'll talk about this, more, but I wanted to, before we move on, just get a little bit of clarity and a couple of questions. The first thing is, when you look back at the notes, it talks about bylaw policy 013-1. Can everybody hear me okay? I know that we've been working on some technology and audio things, so I hope everyone is hearing better today. And that talks about administrative guidelines, but we also have the bylaw policy 0132-2 that talks specifically about administrative guidelines. It states the board shall delegate to the superintendent the function of specifying required actions and designing the detailed arrangements under the school, which the school will be operated. These detailed arrangements shall constitute the administrative guidelines governing the schools, which are not inconsistent with the statutes of regulations of the state board or the policies of this board. It goes on to state that the superintendent shall be delegated the authority to take necessary action in circumstances not provided for in board policy, provided that such action shall be reported to the board at the next meeting following such action. So I guess my question related to this is, if we are moving away from board policy 0132.2, because traditionally as a board we don't deal with administrative guidelines, we only deal with policy. That is, the administrative guidelines is the role of the administrator. So if we are actually going to be moving away from that, then we would need to suspend the current policy 0132.2, and then that would need to be resolved at the next board meeting. So I'm just, I guess, a little nervous about having this on the agenda when I feel like there's a lot of unresolved questions as it relates to, and specifically, we're talking about one of the policies, 8805, on flags and displays. So I just wondered if it would be better if we could table this until November's board meeting to give us more time, and then at that time bring in our legal counsel and hopefully a representative from Neola to discuss and answer any questions we may have about policy moving forward.
I would suggest that we talk about that when we get to that item on the agenda. If we choose to table it at that point, we could. So I wouldn't remove it from the agenda at this point.
Okay.
Just because the proper place to talk about it would be when we get to that point.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion about the agenda?
One other thing too, this has just been a festering issue for quite some time, and that is about our board packets or our board meeting agendas. It has been, my frustration has been frustration, I know, from hearing from community members, the fact that they are not being put out on our website or in social media in a timely fashion, if at all. And getting, for us as board members, getting that packet at the end of the day on Friday makes it very challenging. I know this has been a topic of conversation in the past about making any adjustments so we don't have to sit here and spend the first amount of time, doing that. My role with the NC RESA board, their goal is to get it out Wednesday, but at the deadline of Thursday morning by 9. That way you have all day Thursday, all day Friday during business hours to have some feedback on it, comments, questions, and then also get it out into the public forum on time. So that may be a discussion that we have now, and then we table that to another board meeting as well. But I wanted to bring that up because I feel like we should be striving towards making it available sooner for our own purposes and the community's purposes, and that goes as well with meeting notes.
Okay. Yeah, I would, again, I think the proper time to have that discussion is probably during the same item. And then, excuse me, we currently have a policy that dictates when that agenda has to be out. So that agenda that policy would have to be modified in order to change that expectation. So
I would recommend that we discuss it today, but that we look to put that policy on the November board agenda.
Can we
and talk through that?
Yeah, can we just move it to discussion items where we can fully discuss it?
So you want to discuss the policy on agenda in discussion items? Is that?
Well, with what he's discussing. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
it
as
can be-
far as talking about as the packet and that, let's just
Yes.
move it into the proper place under discussion
It can be
items,
put
not
into
at this
discussion
point.
items. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yes, we can discuss it then as well.
Those were the two.
Okay. Stephanie, I know you and I had talked a little bit about.
Yeah, I would just like to discuss the policy, the flag and displays policy. So whether we want to discuss that when we get to policies or whether we want to move it to discussion items, I would just like to have some discussion on that specific policy and how we want to handle it, whether we want to table it, whether we want to send it to the policy and bylaw committee.
Which would you make a motion for?
I would make a motion to table it until we can have some further discussion, possibly reaching out to Neola to see if they can give us some guidance.
Okay, so you want to,
And on that note, that was part of some things I was going to bring up later, but I'll bring it up now, and we can bring it up again later. I know that back in January of 2023, our then board president, started moving towards reestablishing committees. I feel like that has been, I don't feel like it's fully fleshed out. I feel like there's a lot of concerns and issues with committees, because I know that we were talking about moving people around. I've been on a committee that's never met. So I would say for the foreseeable future, the next couple of meetings, at least until we can have further time to have a proper discussion, I think that we should move away from committees and look back at the committee as a whole. I think that right now, with everything happening in this district and on our board and throughout our community, having everybody at the table versus a couple of people at a meeting, I think would be better to have those conversations here and bring it in that way as a committee of the whole.
okay. Any other discussion items on the agenda? I didn't hear a specific motion, so that's why I'm moving on. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I motion that we table the flags and displays policy.
From the resolution you're talking?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do that when we get to that point, okay?